Hello and welcome back to Chomba Talk. It's me again, your host, Martin Chomba, and I am delighted to have your patronage yet again on this channel. Thank you for trusting this channel to speak to you on social, cultural, as well as socio-political and economic issues that are within our space in the society. And today I'm delighted to revisit some of the topics that I've spoken. And today podcast, or rather the videocast, is informed by a question that one of us asked the other day. The day I was discussing the purpose of fatherhood and the place of fatherhood in our society, one of my viewers asked us to discuss to discuss the identity crisis in the life of the boy child who has grown up without a father. And this is a very sensitive topic in my thinking, but it's also a very timely and very important topic to discuss. I want to put a disclaimer here that I don't have all the information, neither am I a custodian of the sole knowledge that goes towards this topic. And my speaking here is limited to my worldview and that which I've seen in my few years of the existence. Having said that, I want to revisit a few statistics that I gave the other day in another topic. And I was also talking about fatherhood, but this time around I was not limited to the boy-child identity crisis. I say that a father has three functions in as far as I'm concerned. And amongst them is protection, and number two is provision, and number three is direction. A father is supposed to provide for his family, and in this particular topic that I'm speaking now, is supposed to provide for his son or the boy child that he's a guardian to. The number two function in my worldview is that the father is supposed to offer protection to this boy child, and the third function is that he's supposed to offer direction. In these three things lies all that which I think is the primary reason as to why God created the order that we have in the life that we live today. An order that there has a father raises a son, who in turn raises another son, and this perpetuity makes sure that there's continued stability in the society in as far as families are concerned, because the responsibility of a father is that of a leadership. If you look at the functions that I've spoken about, they all speaks to leadership. And this leadership is what bequeaths the next generation proper and upright leaders of the coming generation. A few statistics that I spoke to a few days ago. In 1998, the U.S. Department of Justice, within U.S. Department of Justice, there's an Office of Justice Programs. They call it the OPJ, or rather the OJP program office. It's called the Office of Justice Programs. And within it, there's National Institute of Justice. This National Institute of Justice sought to seek and understand why the crime within United States was at the levels it was, and what was informing the demographics of the people that were involved in these criminal activities. And what they found out, because they posed 6 questions to researchers, what the researchers found out is that 90% of all homeless people and kids, especially kids, you find out in the US in 1998, and that is a long time ago, It is a few years, about 4 years short of 30 years. It's a long time. You can extrapolate that and think how it is today. 90% of all homeless people were children that grew without a father or a father figure. 85% of those who have exhibited behavioral disorder were also found to have grown without a father figure. 85% of all the jailbirds in the US at around that time were kids that had grown without fathers. And 71% of all high school dropouts were children that had grown without father figures in their life. It is very, very important that you understand what I'm trying to say. As I've said earlier in previous programs, women do not choose whether their children will have fathers or they will not have fathers. Very few of them, a negligible number, that does that for whatever reason that they do that, and we excuse them for that. But most of those women that are mothers to these young men, they would have wished that their fathers are present in their sons. And I know it is the cry and desire of every woman out there who is a mother, who have done a tremendous, actually single mothers have tremendous respect for me because I am a product of a single mother. I want to say this today, that as I've always said, anything in your life as a single mother could have been a mistake, but not your child. The father, the circumstances around the pregnancy, the circumstances around how you became entangled could have been all a mistake in your view. But I'll tell you this, and this has always been my mantra, that anything else could have been a mistake, but not your baby. Having said that, there is a responsibility we have. And the question that has been posed to me today is to talk to the identity crisis in a boy child who is either underfathered or has grown without a father figure. At the beginning of the program, I told you that the biggest purpose of a father, in my view, is provision, protection, and direction. So the identity crisis that bedevils a child that has grown without a father or a father figure, because it is also very important to talk about fatherhood. Fatherhood is not just about seed giving, it's about being present in your sons, because sons like copying, imitating the male figures in their lives. For instance, when I was growing up, I did not have my father. I actually saw my father about 3 times in my whole life. But my grandfather became my de facto father. I would see the male functions of a father in my grandfather. And that's how I think God used my grandfather to mold me and to understand the man perspective of world and worldview. And so, in every society, whether you are a single mother, whether you are a child who was born and the mother is not there and the father is not there, in the society, there are people that God, in his own infinite wisdom, has provided to be mentors or people that can keep tabs with the life of that young man within your society to make sure that they have a role model to imitate or to copycat, such that they become young, responsible young men who have a role model in life and understand what fatherhood is. So the identity crisis here, when there is absence of a guardian, a male guardian or a father in the life of a young man, is that this young man ends up without understanding what is protection that a man offers to his family. So you realize that because protection is a responsibility that God has given to men to protect their women, to protect their daughters, to protect their mothers, to protect that which is within their domain. And it is something that is inherent, it is wired within us. But then again, that which is wired within us has to be sharpened and trained by seeing other people do that. So the crisis here is that this young man has an identity crisis in that he's not able to identify the people that he has a responsibility to protect, because he has not grown up seeing somebody protect him. So he does not know, or he does not feel obligated to protect others when he's of age. And actually, most of them tend to be defiant towards this God-ordained system of family. The other problem is provision. When this man grows up, he has seen their home, it is the mother who provides. And this now precipitates a crisis when we have young men, and it is happening today, that a lot of young men have grown up without fathers, or when their fathers are there, they are not effective in their role of provision. And what has precipitated is a crisis is that because, as I told you, men behave, it is monkey see, monkey do. When you grow up seeing that your father is the one who pays school fees, is the one who pays house rent, is the one who provides food, you have a proclivity towards doing what you saw your father do. It is not a function of how much money you have. Rather, it will be a drive from inside you to copycat your dad, or to copycat the male figure that you grew up with. If the person that you were was present in your upbringing was laid back and did not care about provision, so you grew up with that crisis. When it is your time to provide, when everybody and the societal expectations is that a man provides, you will not see any problem with staying without providing, because that is what you saw. And when everybody is up in arms against that, you'll be wondering, what's your problem? I'm just living the way I saw my father live, or just living the way the society I grew up was. It is so bad that now the man gets married and has a wife and kids, and because in his life the mother is the one that used to provide, he delegates and leaves everything to the wife to provide. And this is why most of our women are getting frustrated. And actually, that has also become one of the reasons why other women are becoming single, because they will get a time where a woman will get tired, because women are not wired to provide for a family. They are wired to take care, to nurture, but not to provide. So if she has to nurture and provide, then she will get tired and she will not need the man. And now that brings back the cycle, because she'll move out of your home with another son who now will also grow up without seeing a man provide. And the vicious cycle repeats itself. So there is that crisis of identifying the role of a man as a provider and also as a protector. The third role in my worldview is that of direction giver. When you're growing up, there are things your father or your mother or your father will keep telling you as a son. I remember when I was growing up, my grandfather taught me so many things. He taught me how to plant trees. He was very passionate. I actually got to know the Labor Day as sikukuu ya kupanda miti, courtesy of my grandfather. We would go with him to plant. We'll go to till the land with him. We'll go to graze with him. We'll go to the forest. And I remember when we are in the forest, he would tell me, this plant heals this. If you cut this plant in the forest and it has milk like pulp or whatever salp, that is poisonous. Don't take that. He taught me so many things. And when he's doing that, we used to have discussions as to who men are. He would tell me that you cannot give up in life. He would tell me statements that went to tell me that there is no poor young person. These are the things that I used to learn from. He would tell me all that you need is in your hands. As long as you're young, you have the capability and you have the leverage to achieve whatever you want to achieve. He taught me things about discipline, being there on time when somebody tells you to meet them, being respectful, saying hi to your elders, holding your hand as a sign of respect, having a firm handshake, and looking in the eyes of those that you speak to. So many things that my grandfather spoke to me, which spoke to direction. So I am who I am today because my grandfather directed me towards something, and beyond anything else, my father directed me towards a state of heart, because he used to tell me the cleanness of heart, of how pure your heart is determines how peaceful you live. And today I can say without fear of contradiction that it's not that people do not wrong me, but I'll tell you this. If today I stood here and told you that so and so is my enemy, they did this and that to me, and my heart is heavy because they did that or that, I'll be lying. I'll be lying, because I grew up with a person who was a happy-go-lucky, who used to tell me, usibebe watu, live your own life. So he gave me that priceless direction towards life orientation, that I should travel light. Don't carry people. Don't have people in your heart. They don't pay rent. So things which appear funny, but they are very true. So that is what happens. So when this young man grows without a father, they now do not have direction giver. And most of them ends up being very resentful. They boil and clogging anger. And sometimes when their mothers get frustrated about their fathers, or their deadbeat fathers, or their absentee fathers, women sometimes talk these things in the presence of the children. So this child gathers a lot of information that is negative, because sometimes the mother is speaking out of the pain of the heart, understandably so. But I always tell them never to do that in the presence of that kid, because you will be destroying the life of that kid by the information they are getting. They are not mature enough to synthesize that information. So they grow up with boiled anger. And when it is time for them to become adults, they develop crisis in identity. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to approach life. Sometimes when they are at a crossroad, they get angry, or they melt, or they run away from things, or they become violent, or they become disoriented. They keep to themselves. Sometimes you find a young man who is overly timid because they don't believe they can be anything, because were not affirmed. When you are affirmed by your father, something magical happens and you walk into the world with a lot of confidence. So this for you, my viewer who asked me this question, these are the kind of things that precipitate identity crisis in a young man who has grown without a father. So you'll find them exhibiting a very unnecessary anger, sometimes because of the things that they have bottled up in so long. Sometimes they are unable to sustain relationships because they don't know how to play the part of the man in the life of a woman or in the life of children, because they did not grow seeing that. Sometimes they have crisis even with the law. They are defiant. They don't want to be told. They don't want to listen to teachers. For some reason, they start blaming everybody else in life, but they are trying to look for something. They have a void within them. And this thing speaks to the gravity that the fathers need to feel in the lives of the kids that we are raising. So this is a wake-up call to all the fathers out there. I implore you, please be present, be available, be there for these kids, be there for these young men. If we want to bequeath the next generation families that are firm, a generation that is firm, the nation that is firm, we must be very intentional about parenting, such that as fathers, we are there to make sure that they grow up. It doesn't mean that you only have to father your own kids, but in the society that you live in, if there are young men within your proximity, God has brought them in your presence because he trusts that you can shape them. Take that responsibility. And I want to speak to those of you fathers who abscond the duty of fatherhood. You are doing this society a great disservice. And kudos to the single mothers who have braced themselves and have given themselves to say, in spite and despite of what life has thrown to me, I'll make sure that my young man grows to be a responsible man. I can only salute you. And you young men who are growing without fathers, I want to ask you, do not take the fact that you have not grown with a father as an excuse to be a failure. In this life, there gets to a time where you make a deliberate choice to be the man that you want to be. It doesn't matter whether you have grown up with a father or your mother. My grandmother used to tell me long time, I want to paraphrase a saying that he used to tell me. He used to tell me that when a cow gives birth, the mother cow uses the tongue to wipe the baby, the calf. But if the mother dies in the process of giving birth, that calf has a responsibility to wipe itself. And that is what I'll tell you. If you're a young man and there's no guardian, there's no father within your vicinity, you have a responsibility to stand up and square up your shoulder and say, I'm not going to be just another statistics, but I'm going to grow up as a responsible young man that I am. And I know God is so faithful. You take the first steps towards responsibility, God will amplify that steps, and he will ordain a path for you to meet destiny helpers who will shape you. And who knows, you'll become one of the best person that we have in this country, if not the world. God bless you so much for listening to me, and I hope I've spoken to your heart and you have understood what I was trying to say. I thank you, all of you who are of goodwill. You can always catch me on Chomba Talk on YouTube, Martin Chomba and Chomba Talk on Facebook, and Martin Chomba on Instagram and TikTok. God bless you. And my number, you can always reach me on 0722 136 411. If you want to speak to me, if you want me to walk a journey with you, I am available to make sure that we shape the next generation. God bless you, and may you have a lovely time of fatherhood out there. God bless.